Okay. Now, I just wonder whether that live stream link is going to work for anyone whatsoever.
Mm.
The Articulate Coven is the original unofficial fan podcast and community for Anne Rice's Interview with the Vampire, The Vampire Chronicles, The Lives of the Mayfair Witches, and The Immortal Universe from AMC and AMC Plus. I've got a few things to talk about in case I was literally like, what if nobody shows up?
It might just be us and Alfie, and that's fine.
I've got about 30 or 40 minutes worth of content in case literally no one came and you were in a bad mood. I still had.
I was in a bad mood.
I was like, if Ashley's in a terrible mood and no one else is here, we're
good. We've got more peeps. Yay!
Yay! Okay, so the first of all, it's noon, so let's go ahead and start here for a second. I will just say officially what this is. We are the Articulate Coven, and welcome. We are your hosts. I'm Joel.
I'm Ashley. I was reading Alfie's comment. Jesus, this is going to be hilarious. I'm Ashley. It's me. Hi.
And we are the Articulate Coven. So this is the unofficial fan podcast and community, the original unofficial fan podcast and community, I should say, for Anne Rice, her Immortal Universe, the Interview with the Vampire show, the Mayfair Witches show, the Talamasca show to come, and everything else. We've ended up talking about a lot of horror generally because our audience is interested in those things. Imagine.
Right, shocking.
So anyway, thank you for joining us today. And the first thing that I want to get to is a question that Alfie had asked before we got on. How are you, Joel? Much better.
Joel, how are you?
So here's the number one thing that I am now knowledgeable. I know because I've had all these tests, right? I don't have high blood pressure. I don't have high cholesterol.
Good.
I don't have a tumor. I don't have cancer that's obvious in any way anywhere in my body.
Right.
Like,
if
they
it
have
isn't
scanned
sneaky
me
bastard
good.
Cancer.
Yes. Yeah, indeed. They have scanned me good. They have checked all my levels and everything is pretty good. That still means that the seizure itself was a bit of a mystery still. We believe it to be sleep apnea based. And I do have a sleep study scheduled actually tonight, as a matter of fact.
Ooh.
And they're telling me within like a week or two at the most, I'll have the results of that. And then probably I'll have sleep apnea and probably I'll get a CPAP machine. I'm about to take a little road trip, but when I get back from the road trip, I should have a sleep machine within a week. So
baby Darth Vader.
Indeed. That's how I am. And I'm excited about it, honestly. Like, I'm a little worried that it is like, it's like the miracle drug in my mind, right? That I'm going to get this CPAP machine and then immediately I'm going to lose 25 pounds and I'll feel like a 15-year-old again or something. But maybe not like a 25-year-old, let's say. I don't want to feel like a 15-year-old.
Jesus God. I don't even really want to feel like a 25-year-old, to be honest. Let's go back to maybe like 32. That'd be fine.
Yeah, I'd take 35, honestly, at this point. Yeah, I'd be happy with that. So anyway, I do feel really excited about this, and everyone that I have talked to since this came up that has a CPAP machine has been like, but really changed my life.
Yeah,
I would not ever sleep without it, et cetera, et cetera. So that's awesome. The CPAP people will try to sell you. I'm going to put this on here. Let's see.
That's hilarious.
They'll try to sell you all kinds of extra stuff like it's a car, but you don't need it.
Good to know.
So my wife has one. She got one about a year ago, I guess. And she's got like, I don't know, several sets of the face mask thing. It makes me think of Lady and the Tramp. Because it snaps on like a muscle. They're magnetic. But it literally, like, there's a thing that hangs in the front and then you put it over your head like this and it goes like snap and it snaps to her face, and then the hose comes on and attaches to make the vacuum seal. But it really, as soon as she first brought it out, I was like, that is the muzzle from Lady and the Tramp. And I'm not even against that. Like, I think I could maybe get behind that, honestly. So, but she's got a few of those, and then she's got like, I don't know, a few hoses, I think. And I think already once we've rotated out one hose, like I know she washes everything on a regular basis. Like once a week, she like really washes the shit out of it, hangs it up and lets it dry and everything. So anyway, maybe she's not doing everything that she should with it, but it doesn't seem like she's doing, I mean, it would be like a lot. Shaving like or something. Yeah. It's not going to be that big a problem. Yeah.
How shocked were you that all of your blood work was pretty good? Dude.
Honestly, I was like,
so, me too. I got some blood work done like about 8 months ago, and I was like, all right, this is where we find out we've done some real bad shit to your body, Ashley. You need to be emotionally prepared for this. Turns out
you've got the liver of a 75-year-old.
Yeah, that's, I mean, like, you've got the liver of the drunk Irish man that you are deep inside. However, my numbers were really good except for my vitamin D, which was in the single digits. It was like 9. It's like, I don't go out in the sun enough. Yikes.
Yeah, my vitamin D is probably not very high either, but it wasn't low enough anyway that they gave me any shit about it. Let's put it like
mine was red. They were like, here's your prescription drug for your vitamin D. I don't even know how you're absorbing any calcium into your body.
So there was one thing that they did give notice of, and they're like, the 3 causes of this might be sleep apnea, smoking, or lack of water intake. And I'm like, well, I definitely don't drink enough water, doc, and I do in fact smoke a little cannabis on occasion. and
it's medicinal.
And I probably do have sleep apnea. And they're like, well, maybe, edibles. And I'm like, probably maybe. Not. But, at some point, Willie gave it up too. So I figure at some point I won't be able to sing, and the doctor will be, or I won't be able to podcast, and I'll be like, okay, fine.
It's time now. Yeah.
But before then, I'm sorry, doc. I like my medicine.
I do too. My God. I mean, you can't just raw dog your way through life right now. Like anybody that I know that's like unmedicated and does not use any sort of like recreational whatever, I'm just like, how are you doing that? I'm so impressed. Like you're not even on like any like a little baby antidepressant. Like you're just out there living your life. Whew.
Good luck to you, I say.
You're so big. Good luck to you. Yeah.
Tania says, what is this sun you speak of?
It's offensive in Arkansas in the summertime. I tell you, I do not. I hate summer.
So this is the time of year where I like Louisiana's weather.
Mm-hmm.
It
happens thrive.
Right here. It's not, we're past the gray time, right? Mm-hmm. Winter is behind us. We're not really to spring yet because it's not hot. But in the middle of the day, it's very pleasant outside. And early in the morning, it's a little chilly. You can put on a jacket even.
Yeah, you're happy about your long sleeves as you walk into the office.
You can cuddle up on the porch in the evening time. We get like 3 weeks of this. And then
beautiful.
It's terrible again.
And then it's awful, yeah. And then we'll get a similar version of it, but the cool down version in the fall, and that's beautiful and perfect too. Yeah. Like it's really like 6 weeks out of the year, it's so nice to live in the South.
6 weeks out of the year, it's so nice to live in the South. That's exactly true. I'm trying to see if I can let me see what I can do. I can share a screen is what I can do.
Ooh. Y'all, we're flying by the seat of our pants here. We've not done this
right.
Before.
I'm telling you, I'm like, let's see what this magic computer will do.
What does this button do? Like, that's where I'm at.
Oh, I may not be able to record the contents of your screen until it is quit. Well, we're not going to do that. Never mind.
We have 8 people in the audience now. What?
Yay. Hello, everybody.
Hey, guys. Hey, y'all.
And I do want to I want to let everybody know, if you'll go into the live stream chat, if you post a question there, we can highlight it and bring it into the video so that everybody can see it. We can talk about it. So especially if you've got stuff to ask about the show, but even if you got stuff to ask about us, whatever, put it in the chat. We can add it to the whole thing. And I think there's a way, I honestly don't know how it works for the audience, but I believe there's a way you can even request to be added to the call. So like if we get onto a topic and you have a little something to say and you'd like to join it, we'll try to make that happen too. Here's what I was going to say. We got a really good comment on YouTube on the last episode. It came out effectively right before Mardi Gras, which by the way, it's sacrilege here. If you can see, I don't know if you can see behind me or not, but
your tree's gone.
I still have, my tree is gone. That's true. But in the background, I have a Mardi Gras dog on the wall. It is not Mardi Gras anymore. It's Lent.
It's Lent.
But I say to hell with that. Mardi Gras.
Yeah. We don't, I don't have anything I need to repent about. I'm going to just slide right through the Lent season.
I'm enjoying Joel's gesticulations very much.
Yeah, we are hand talkers. That's what I responded to that with. We just are both like, woo!
Okay, Tania says, I'm on the app. I see no options for anything. Okay, I will say, if you are using the mobile app, I think that you are limited in what your options are for sure. The best options I know are available in the Chrome browser or the Edge browser. And if you're on a Mac computer, there is a Mac app that you can download and access the live link through there too, if you want. We got a good comment the other day on our YouTube channel from... Okay, this user is LLMIOCUOREEIMPRIGIONATO. That's the username. Could not pronounce that.
Didn't even want to go. You didn't even want to go for it, did you?
Yes, but our last episode was titled "A Wet Duck Fart."
Oh, thank you, thank you, Kelly, by the way, for that.
That's what Kelly thought about the finale of Mayfair, and they said, "I just thought I'd share wet duck fart shot, layered shot of Kahlua, layered shot of Bailey's Irish Cream, layered shot of whiskey." Alla tua salute, Cintaani. Happy Fat Tuesday, everyone. Enjoy.
Yeah, that is a good shot, by the by. Quite popular amongst the captains on Deadliest Catch as well, which I was very surprised for. Very surprised by.
I did not know that.
I've had more than my fair share of duck farts in my life, and they are delicious. A delicious shot.
I had never, I'd never heard of that before.
Oh,
but it's impressive.
Yeah, it's quite good. Quite good.
So, Ashley, I had missed this message. You had actually responded to it in our Instagram DMs.
Oh, did I?
You did. But I saw this the other day, and we're not going to use their name for obvious reasons.
I know what it is.
But we've got some interesting... This is our first scoop, I think, ever.
It is. That I can remember.
We had some audience members that were in Prague during the filming for Interview Season 2. But it wasn't like anything that we didn't know was coming or that hadn't leaked anywhere else. Like nobody gave us any information. But this person has access to some confidential information that they wanted to share with someone they couldn't share publicly. But they got it firsthand from the production that they are prepping for a shoot currently. They're prepping here at the end of March. The shoot date is going to be June 16th. And the location is Toronto. It's the first we've heard about them shooting in Canada, I think. Anyway.
Yeah. Canada's a big, big shooting location, though, for a ton of things.
I mean, for sure. And the other thing that I would imagine is in this current climate, like, for instance, I don't think Louisiana is going to be offering those great tax rebates. Our governor is fairly anti the film industry. Our federal government seems to be fairly anti everything. So like
anti everything I like.
Yeah. I mean, if I was Sam Reed, I would not really want to spend much of my 2025 in the States, if I'm being honest.
Bless. That's true. He didn't do any of this. None of this is his fault. Also, I think, I think it's pretty, like, a lot cheaper to film in Canada on a lot of levels too. Like, they're just really, really set up well for the film industry, especially that Toronto area. I mean, and it has been, like, that's been a thing since the, like, early 90s. So...
Anti everything that's ethical and also cool.
Yeah.
Alfie says,
Accurate,
yes,
Alfie.
that's about right. You're right. They're not anti everything. They're just anti everything that I like.
Anything we like. Anything that's good and fun.
All right. I wanted to talk a little bit, Ashley, about what else are we watching and what are we gonna be watching in between. I mean, other than the stuff that we're signed up to watch for
like
this
personally.
show. But what are we watching in our spare time in between now and say Talamasca and while we wait for season 3 of Interview with the Vampire? We'll get to some Mayfair questions in a little while, but I in particular wanted to talk about a couple of shows, but I thought you might have some stuff that you wanted to mention too.
Absolutely.
I want to talk for, just a second, because I haven't watched very much of it, but I want to talk just a second about Paradise.
Oh, I haven't.
And
that's
I've
not
seen
my
some
radar
people share that on the group too. So it's a Hulu original, and I think the finale just aired. I think it's done now, the first season, but they have been renewed for a second season. It's got a bunch of great people in it, but it is very much a mystery box show, right? The first episode's got a hook, and then there are multiple levels that continue to play out throughout the season. Maybe it's got a few little sci-fi elements in it. Again, I'm literally like 2 episodes in, so I don't even know that much. But really high drama in the midst of a high concept as well. And the combination is really well done. Sterling K. Brown is the
somebody
lead.
just recommended. Did somebody just recommend this in the group a couple days ago?
Yes, they posted it just the other day. Not vampire related, but like this is really good.
Yeah, and yeah, he's amazing. I'll watch him do anything.
I agree. I think he's a really great actor. Like, I had to bail out on This Is Us because it was just too much for me.
But that's like torture porn. Like, that's emotional torture porn.
Yes.
I could not,
especially once
show.
they gave Mama dementia, and I was like, no.
I couldn't watch that show because it just felt like they wanted to manipulate my soul in the worst and violent ways possible.
Yes, I keep hearing about, okay, that's how I felt too. Like, I saw the first ad and I was like, oh, that's a bunch of good. James Marsden also is in it. He plays the president.
Y'all, if y'all didn't watch Jury Duty, you missed out on. You didn't miss. You could just go watch it.
Go watch it right now.
It's so fucking funny and brilliant. And James Marsden is like the biggest delight you'll ever have in that.
Listen, I liked him before,
right?
But that show made me love him so much. Like, yes, he's great in this too. You know what? His character, and again, I'm only 2 episodes in, so maybe there's things to come. But it really makes me feel like a role that like Don Johnson could have played 15 or 20 years ago and would have been killed in. You know, he's like too cool for school, and also so charismatic that you love him anyway. Like, yeah, he makes a great president, honestly. Very, very cool show that though. And I think it's going to go interesting places. Kelly and I are watching that together. And when we finish, I think we won't go like hours and hours, and we're not going to do an episode to episode breakdown, but we are going to make one video at least about the first season. Cause it's like, there's a lot going on there. And I love the fact that there are a couple examples, and the other show that I wanted to talk about is like this too, of modern television trying to do, and I think doing successfully, what made Lost so great. Like, Lost was a phenomenon, and TV's not like that anymore, and we're not all going to watch it all at the same time, and et cetera, but you can still tell an amazing, like, truly keep you on your heels mystery. Lesser episodes for sure, because things cost more, right? But I think that Paradise seems to do that pretty well, and Severance is the other one that I was going to mention that reminds me a lot of that same sort of thing, is because like you feel like, okay, well now I've got a handle on what the show is, but no, there's another turn to take, you know.
I need to get on the Severance train.
The fact that you combine that with great character drama too is the thing. Like, those actors are all doing excellent work just moment to moment. And so whether this episode is like a big reveal episode or whether this episode is just them in the office, either way, it's going to be thrilling and exciting. And like, that's what TV does so well, man. TV does that better than movies can, and I'm glad that there's so much of it, honestly.
Oh God, yeah, for sure, for sure. I'm tits deep in Yellow Jackets season 3 myself. Fucking crazy shit. I love that show. It's bananas. I mean, it's definitely has slips and slides off the street all the time and off the road and off the rails. And then you're like, oh, are we going to get back? I don't know. I'm just along for this crazy ass ride. I just started White Lotus. I'm not enjoying being week to week with episodes. I'm more of a binge watcher, but here we are it's like back in the 2000s, early 2000s, as we watch shows week by week again. I'm almost used to having fucking commercials again, actually.
The other day I watched 2 movies back to back on Tubi, which is full of ads, right? And I realized I got to the end and I was like, I didn't even mind that at all. Like, holy hell, they have just returned me to
we've gone round
97 again. Yeah.
Yep, we've gone round again.
So this is a good one. Mira says, not vampire related. It ended in the 2010s, but Harlots on Hulu for a canonical bisexual, biromantic main character in a diverse period drama. Lestat and Charlotte Wells would be besties and lovers.
Love it.
Have you seen that, Harlots?
I have not, but I remember it being out, and I remember it being well recommended to me. And then it got put on the list, and then I lost the list.
The list is very long.
List is amalgamous, and there's 2 lists. Like, we've discussed this. There's the list of things that people say, hey, you should watch this, and you're like, great, I'll put it on the list, and you have zero intention of watching that. But Harlots was on the real list, and then I forgot about it.
Tania says Watson is great also. So, okay, here's what I've heard about Watson. I've heard that Watson is like somebody realized that House was just Sherlock Holmes as a doctor.
That's
and
hilarious.
They're like, hey, let's do that, except, let's make the lead Watson instead. I think that's a great example, though, that like just because someone has told a story before does not mean that you cannot tell your version of it, right?
Right.
And, okay, let's talk about Mayfair Witches for a second here.
Oh, okay.
First of all, someone will readapt these stories down the road. As a matter of fact, they're more likely to have future live action adaptations than they were before AMC bought the rights and made these 2 TV series.
Very true.
We'll have a new Interview with a Vampire eventually, or a Vampire Chronicles or whatever, and we'll have a new Mayfair Witches eventually, because there's some kid right now that watched those shows and fell in love with them, and then read the books and fell in love with them. And someday they'll be a studio executive or a writer or a director, right?
Yes, which is exactly how we got this in the first place.
Precisely. I mean, like, Rollin Jones was there to talk to them about other things. And on the way out of the room, they were like, hey, we've got the rights to Anne Rice. And he went, but what now? Let me tell you about a story that I have that I would like to tell. And so that's why we're here at season 3, right? And so the creator of Watson, just because it is in many ways like House, and just because it is a retelling of the Sherlock Holmes stories, so what? Like,
it doesn't mean
Sherlock is good,
fresh and new and fun. Like, get on board.
Yes. There's, what was the CBS show? Elementary? Like, they did it already with swapped, I think, genders. The Sherlock series of movies on BBC is great and still out there. There's like the old Basil Rathbone movies or whatever. Those are good too. Like, whatever, man. Good stories are good stories, and we don't have to stop telling them. Exactly. The other one that Tania mentioned is Alex Cross on Amazon.
And I fucking love those books. Like, I need to get on board with that series because I have Amazon and I haven't started it yet. And I fucking love those Alex Cross books. So I'm doing this thing this year where it's like 52. I have to read at least 52 books that come from my books on my shelves already. And that includes books on my physical bookshelves at home, books in my like Audible that I have on Audible, and books that I have like hoarded on Kindle that I haven't read. And I've been really successful with it so far, but I've got a ton of Alex Cross books on my bookshelf that I'm so excited to, like, maybe in the summertime, like have a couple of months of like Alex Cross fun where I just read like 4 or 5 Alex Cross books.
I think But see, that's a great, like, they made the movies with Morgan Freeman.
Mm-hmm.
And then somebody, Tyler Perry did some where he was Alex Cross, right?
Yep.
And I think he's maybe producing this series for Amazon, maybe, but he's not the lead anymore. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Tell your story, even if somebody's told it before. Like, you haven't told it. Tell your story. Kelly says, loved Lost, haven't gotten to Severance or Paradise, but I am on the From train.
That's
MGM
on
Plus. So have you watched that?
No, but that, again, that is on my
it's on the real list.
The real list. It's on the real list. Because I also love the lead in that. Because he's fucking fantastic. Harold
Perrineau, right? Yeah,
he's fantastic.
So
I have loved him since that Romeo and Juliet. That's the first thing I saw him in, was that Baz Luhrmann Romeo and Juliet, and I was like, holy shit, he is the best thing I've ever seen in my life.
Amongst these heartless hinds, God bless that movie. That movie, the whole movie is amazing. I will say this: he was my favorite Mercutio, and I don't know that I've ever seen a better Mercutio. I used to say John Leguizamo was my favorite Tybalt until I very recently, on the word of some of our listeners, watched Hatfields and McCoys and saw Sam Reed play effectively Tybalt.
A version of Tybalt.
Yes, he is the Tybalt in the Hatfields and McCoys version of Romeo and Juliet. He's really quite good in it too. His accent's not great. But
nobody's
otherwise
perfect,
it was fantastic.
Right?
So, okay. You mentioned From those specifically, and I just want to point out to people, personally, I just turned mine off, honestly, because I was so mad about Mayfair. I turned off my AMC subscription for a couple of months, but I was like, I'm canceling it for a minute.
I need a break. We're not breaking up, but I need a break.
But I'll end up going back, and one of the reasons I'll go back is they've got that deal with Shudder, and amongst other things, they've just got this huge horror collection there.
Yeah.
But for some reason, and I don't know if it's through Shudder or something else, AMC Plus has From currently, at least the first season. So if you haven't seen From and you don't have MGM Plus, but you do have AMC Plus, you might have access to From. Go check that out.
Okay, I'm gonna check that out
and see if that's available.
That sounds like some tub watching goodness.
Tania says, I'm so hoping HBO picks up Mayfair with the actual story and not this weird wiki version. So I got to tell you, in my childhood, that's what I imagined. I said, okay, the question is, will HBO get the rights to Mayfair Witches, or will they get the rights to the Laurel K. Hamilton, Anita Blake series? I thought for sure one of those would be up HBO's alley. They're both sexy and supernatural, and like HBO was way into both of those things at the time, and I felt like surely by the late 90s we'll get a big quality series, and we still haven't really. Nobody's adapted the Laurel K. Hamilton books, which still blows my mind. I feel like, especially with the success, like True Blood lasted forever.
Yeah.
And Anita Blake is cooler than True Blood. I don't know what to tell y'all. Like, it's way cooler. It gets a little off the rails in the end and becomes just about the sex magic. But I say in the end, I bailed in like 14 or 15 books. I think there's like 25 now. But
that's a lot of books.
There's so many books, man. There's so many books. But regardless, though, so here's the bad news on that front. Nobody's going to do these books except AMC for quite a while.
Yeah.
Now, realistically, the way that the media landscape is, AMC is likely to be acquired at some point in the not too distant future. And so it is likely that this entire project ends up being owned by one of these other media conglomerates. So I don't think it's out of the question to say even in a decade we get another swing at this, but I think that swing will probably come from AMC or whoever ends up buying them.
Yeah, it is. It'll be. It's just everything in media is interesting to watch how it comes together, and and breaks apart and then comes together again. And there are definitely those big conglomerates that do, I mean, run the monopolies on it. So I don't want to give up all the like smaller creative, you know, television makers, but it is kind of inevitable with the way the business is.
Alfie says, I don't want a new Interview with a Vampire. I don't either. I don't. No. Now, here's what I do want. I want, and I've said it in the last episode, I genuinely hope that AMC doubles down on what is working and cuts their losses on what is not. There is no reason, honestly, to renew Mayfair Witches for a third season. There is every reason to begin production on further expansions of what is working, and the vampires are working. You're about to introduce all these characters with the Vampire Lestat storyline, and many of those characters could work in an entirely separate setting and time period, so that you don't have to screw up your current storyline, and yet you could add to it and give a whole new set of actors, you know, their own show and own franchise to make you a lot more money, AMC. Like, come on.
Well, I just, with Mayfair,
give us an originals.
Please. It's so hard to see where Mayfair would be going next, aside from just the very obvious cat and mouse between Julian and Rowan. You know, like, it just doesn't, I don't know where they'd go next, because they just used up and chewed up and spit out so much of the you know, the actual content that they could have, all the books they just didn't even. It's how I feel about Game of Thrones. It's like, you had all of this source material, tons of it. You could have produced seasons and seasons and seasons of this show, and you just got fucking either bored with it, or you didn't like what you were given, and so you just fucking hit it with a bunch of fuckery. And then we ended up with, like, you didn't know where you were going next, because the writer didn't know where you were going next. So how the fuck did you know where you were going next? And it just feels, Mayfair just, I feel that same disappointment that I felt with Game of Thrones, because there were so many plot points in those books that they didn't even touch, like characters, like huge sections that they didn't even think about using, like the Martells. Like, the Martells aren't even in the fucking series, you know, like, what the hell? A huge part of the books. So it's like, that's how I feel about Mayfair. I just am so angry. I'm like, I don't want to be mad about some fucking witches that I already liked. I liked these witches. Why am I mad?
Yes, 1,000,000%. Like, there was nothing wrong with this series to begin with, right? Like, I mean, I say nothing wrong. I don't even know. Can you see me on screen currently? I can't see myself.
I can
suddenly
see you.
All right. I realized there were options, and I was like, put myself in a grid or something. Anyway, here, I'm going to go back to this just because I'm confusing myself. What did Bran say?
Oh no, Tania was just like, Bran, and three laughing emojis, and yes. I mean,
yes. I don't like. I hate to shit on creative works, but this was one of mine. Like, this was one of the ones that I was very fond of. I mean, you and I have been. We didn't even have hope, honestly, in the very beginning that Mayfair would even be adapted. And then they said, no, we're in production on a series. And we were like, no way. What if they do this? And what if they do that? And guys, we rolled with the punches. We thought there's a reason, perhaps, that getting rid of Michael and Aaron, or combining those characters in some fashion, maybe it's expedient. We've seen this be successful, major changes on Interview that worked for us story-wise, even though we love the books. And it's just, they've had 2 seasons now to play it out, and it did not work.
Well,
all
just
of
how
the
many
things
like
that they did just did not
new
work.
things they introduced and then immediately abandoned. Like, at least like the witch hunters in the first season. Like, I completely forgot that storyline even existed until someone mentioned it, and then I was like, holy shit, we just left that and we never went back to it. We just abandoned it.
You and I didn't mention it all season long because I kept forgetting it personally. What about Cyprian's sister? Cyprian's sister got stolen by the Talamasca, theoretically to breastfeed Lasher, and then was never mentioned in the second season.
I completely forgot about that until you just said it, but you're totally fucking right. Like,
people keep mentioning it in the comments of the YouTube channel, and I'm like, oh shit, yeah, we should talk about that next episode. But then there was so much new bullshit to talk about.
And nothing. They just, it's like,
I always forgot.
Yeah, it's like they were trying to retcon season 1, but
what's going on here? All right, this is a good one I want to get back to. This is really good. So I was talking about fandom and how in 20 years we'll have somebody who watched these shows and makes wonderful new content from Anne Rice stories. It's how we got The Mandalorian. Yeah, Favreau and Filoni are kids that grew up on Star Wars, playing with their action figures in the sandbox. I mean, I will say Filoni, it's hard for me to ever choose sides against Filoni because he was trained by George Lucas. And if there's anybody who was literally handed the keys of creativity for that universe, it's him. And to me, he really can't do any wrong. I know a lot of people didn't love Ahsoka as much as, some of the other stuff or whatever, but
fuck off. It's not everything's for you. Not everything is for you. And furthermore, like, I'm going to get up on this soapbox for a second because you put it out there. If you only liked, I'm going to look right into the camera. If you only liked 2 movies of this entire universe, if you only liked A New Hope and you only liked The Empire Strikes Back and you didn't like Return of the Jedi because you thought the Ewoks were too fucking cute and then everything got cutesy and bleh, you don't like Star Wars. You like 2 fucking movies that happen to be in the Star Wars universe. And guess what? It isn't for you then. Fuck off. I get so angry about that. You liked 2 movies of like all of this shit that we've been given and you're trying to be the boss of it all? Go fuck yourself. Sorry. Anyway, I love Filoni and I think he's grand and he's probably going to be taking over when Kathleen Kennedy retires in the next year or 2.
So that's what I was going to say. It seems like the rumors have it that Kathleen's about to step down, which I love. I'm sure as soon as it's announced, all of those YouTube channels that I hate will immediately say, we did it. We threw Kathleen Kennedy out. No, you fucking didn't.
The bitch decided to retire when she was ready. And guess
She's
what?
She
was also
literally
one of
billions
George
for Disney.
Lucas's chosen ones as well.
Yes.
Like, he handpicked her. That's his world. Fuck you. You don't get to pick everything.
Indeed. You have to remember, and I want to point out again, he gave Lucasfilm to Kathleen Kennedy before he sold it to Disney. Kathleen came over as the CEO of Lucasfilm when Disney bought it. She wasn't. Bob Iger didn't put her into place. George did. Now, if you don't like George Lucas,
ass bitch, and that is all I'm going to say about Kathleen Kennedy.
Yeah, I mean, yes, man, yes. Go look at the other movies that she's produced in her career before she got to Lucasfilm. Like, again, great artist there, in my opinion, and we'll miss her when she's gone. It is interesting, though, because it's like Kevin Feige, Filoni, and Favreau are the 3 top choices to replace her, and I think any of them would be really interesting. I think Feige might be the best. Filoni and Favreau in particular, I think, are great creatives, and I worry that putting them in the boss's chair will mean they're worried too much about dollars and cents and have to overlook too many things. We won't get their creative output. I will say what Warner Brothers has done with DC is interesting. You've got James Gunn, obviously, is the creative head, but I can't remember. Safran, I think, is the guy's name, who is his partner as CEO, and it's effectively that's what they did. They split the job, which look back how well that worked at Disney with Michael Eisner and Katzenberg. When they were doing the job together, it was better. Anyway, I think Star Wars has a great future ahead of it.
Of course.
I think James Bond has a great future ahead of it, even though Amazon has all the creative rights now. So, like, whatever. I think we got good stuff ahead of us. And this is going to work really well, too, y'all. Like, this AMC stuff and Anne Rice stuff is not going to falter and not going to die just because of Mayfair. And again, I'll just say, like, all right, even if we can't get the audience currently enraptured in a way in interview that it can live on for 7 or 8 or 15 seasons like we want it to, these companies will try this again with these works, and I don't think they're going to miss what worked so well this time. I think the creatives that take it up next time will actually take the right lessons from it. So I'm
in the meantime, we know we have a couple more seasons of Interview to look forward to, and I am ready for it. I am ready for these sassy, gay-ass vampires to be back in my life, brightening up my screen and making me, able to forget about the shit show that's going on around me for a little while. So I cannot wait.
Alfie says, I wonder if HBO would be interested in AMC. So Warner Brothers owns HBO, and Warner Brothers right now is Warner Brothers Discovery, which is already its own huge conglomerate. But the guy who is in charge, who was basically the guy who created Discovery, I can't think of his name right now. It's not, I wanted to say Zuckerberg. It's not Zuckerberg, but it is something like that, honestly. Anyway, he's not a great guy, I don't think. And I don't think he's a great creative. But I do think his plan with that is to merge with one of the other companies. I think most of Hollywood thinks that we've basically got room for 3 or 4 studios.
Yeah.
Which means that they're all going to be owned by the tech giants, right? So like Apple will come out of this probably with a purchase of one of those classic studios, just like Amazon has now bought MGM, right? You've got Comcast has Universal, but that's probably a big enough company on its own, but they could probably gobble up one of the other ones. Like maybe they eat Paramount eventually.
Yeah.
You've got Paramount out there. You've got smaller companies like AMC and a bunch of smaller media companies that will definitely end up in one of these giants. Like Disney's big enough on its own. Netflix is big enough on its own, probably, although they may eat somebody else. Like, here's my thing. I think Netflix eats the WWE in the next few years, for instance. I think they absolutely buy them outright. The WWE makes so much sense to them. Like, it's a regular, ongoing live product. It puts them into sports because they'll also own the UFC then because they're one company now, right? But also,
and they're doing well with their streams with it too. Like
with the streams,
the streams
doing well.
have not been riddled with the problems that their other live streams have had some issues. Their WWE ones are coming through really clean without a lot of the same problems that they had with like those things that were going to have a little bit of a wider audience that they've tried to do live.
But the other beauty of the WWE for Netflix or for any of these companies, WWE makes a lot of sense if you think about it. Unlike most sports, you don't have to watch it live to get all of the value, right?
Oh, no.
Like if it's ruined for you that John Cena turned heel this week,
right?
You can still enjoy watching the drama play out if you actually go and watch the match, right? Like, yeah, okay, that works, man. Anyway, I think that's absolutely what's going to happen. They've got this deal with Peacock currently with Comcast Universal, and I think when that expires at the end of this year, Netflix probably just buys them outright. Excuse me. But I don't know, man. Like I just found some peace about this last week as I got over the Mayfair of it all. I'm like, we're going to be okay.
We're detoxing from Mayfair witches.
So Alfie says Mayfair was renewed during first season, right? Yes. So both
they did the
of
same
them
thing
were,
with
though.
Interview. Yeah, they did that same thing with Interview, and they didn't announce Interview's third season until the end of the season.
So they announced it the week before the finale.
Yeah.
Remember? Because the finale teases season 3, and they were like, we want to make sure you know it's coming. And they did not do that with Mayfair Witches. I really think, and again, I'm basing most of this on the end of Mayfair Witches finale episode, where it was so clear that they had trimmed that budget back to nothing.
Yeah, they did not finish.
They literally didn't finish the last scene. We didn't go into the house. We were missing like 3 characters. It was weird, y'all. I think that was because they had already cut the money off. There was no more budget for Mayfair, actually, because there is no more Mayfair project. That's my guess. Somebody, though, and I wanted to share this too, Tania points out, even this version of Mayfair could be saved.
Yes.
If they restart it by telling backstory, maybe in the Talamasca series.
That's what I think too. That's what I think.
You just retcon it.
Yeah. Or just like just use Talamasca to tell that part of the story, you know, because that is something you do have on paper source material that is Talamasca related and very related to the Talamasca.
Very, very much. Brand says, if we can get up to Tale of the Body Thief, I would be happy, honestly.
Same.
So this is my realistic goal. I think, first of all, y'all, if we get Queen of the Damned in a real, like, worthwhile telling with this creative team, I think it'll be such an accomplishment for this fandom and such a thing in retrospect that we'll look back on, and new parts of this fandom will be built for decades to come if we tell that story right, y'all. That story is amazing. It's so broad and epic. It's just like, what in the world? And at that point, if we then get a Tale of the Body Thief season, it'll be like a victory lap, right? Because Tale of the Body Thief is so contained and such a just cool, straightforward adventure story. If we get there, I think we'll get 10 years. I really do, because those two stories are so good.
And
if
so
they're told
different
on screen. Yes.
So different.
Yes. The audience will explode. I mean, you cannot help but get excited about those stories if you like genre fiction at all. And I think the barriers that have been in place to get people into those before is like, well, it's just part of the... Anyway, TV makes a difference. And if we can get to those stories, I really do think they'll have a franchise here that can last as long as The Walking Dead. We got to cross our fingers and be very good boys and girls and days and gays and watch every episode, y'all. Talk about it online. Get people excited in between seasons.
Yeah.
Push for Netflix to get season 2. I don't know if that deal already includes season 2 and it's just a matter of time
of releasing it.
Like, if they haven't already paid for season 2, we want them to. We want Netflix viewers to see season 2 of Interview with the Vampire, because we know it's better than season 1 even was.
I would say if you're like leaning in, you're like, you know what? All this talk, I deserve my sexy vampires. And you're going to do a rewatch. I do it on Netflix now, just to get that viewing in through the Netflix, machine.
Adrian says, absolutely hate Mayfair, but it's doing well for AMC. It did make the top 10 of Netflix. Season 1.
It's just so crazy, Adrian.
Season 1 made the top 10 of Netflix. And we all feel pretty much, I think, I say that, I'm not going to speak for everybody, because some in our group don't dislike Mayfair nearly as much as you and I do.
Some people legit like it, and I love that for them.
I'm glad. Yes,
I'm
indeed. So
glad. Please watch it. Please watch it a lot. Rewatch it. Someone needs to, and it can't be me. I will cry.
I think the quality is so different. If the goal of this is a connected universe, those parts are not compatible, right? You can't. I think we saw that in Felix. We have this crossover in season 2 of Mayfair where we see the vampire Felix from Interview with the Vampire. But y'all, we didn't like him when he showed up in Interview with the Vampire. No, we were like, who is this Felix guy? And that's a stupid accent.
What a douchebag.
Yeah. So let's don't do that. Let's don't do that anymore. Let's see. Censorship is bad, but I am fighting D&D.
The showrunners.
Dan and yes. Yes. Good call. Book Cersei.
They stay on my shit list.
Book Cersei is bi, and we could have had the bi girl bossery of ever.
Yeah.
Man, I forgot that Cersei is bi in the books. You're absolutely right. She is. And they absolutely take that away. She's so man hungry in the show. I
tell you that I read those books. I started reading those books after Ned Stark, after the first season finale. And I was like, that didn't go the way I thought it was going to go. And then I was really traumatized. So I was like, I'm going to read these books and then I'll know what's going to happen. And you can't fucking trick me again. And so I did that. And then I got ahead. And then it was just terrible.
The first 3 books in that series are genuinely some of the best fantasy writing that I've ever read. They're just amazing. I feel like he loses the plot a little bit himself, even in the 4th book. And then the fact that he hasn't been able to finish the series, I think, is
every time that a man puts out
a
new book that's not finishing that series, I get so angry at him. I get so mad at a person I don't know in real life. that I have never met in my life. And my blood pressure will get high and I will have to like go sit in the corner for a few minutes and collect myself.
My problem is when he announces some new terrible TV show for the Sci-Fi Network that he's been writing and creating from the ground up. And I'm like, don't do that. Don't, like, you've got the thing, just finish the thing. Okay, Rivermap says, anyone else participate in the AMC survey about Mayfair? I gave them my 2 cents, and it wasn't pretty. I told them they bought the rights because witch was in the title, but then got scared of the incest, then hired Esta, the worst showrunner, and over 800 pages, and you had to make up characters, skipped all the history of the witches. Rivermap, I did too. I very much did those same things.
Several people in our group came back to report that they had not been kind in the AMC questionnaire.
The way that they framed some of the questions in that survey reconfirms for me that they know that this series is not working in a creative way.
Yeah.
And look, just because the first season sold well and had better ratings than Interview did, that is not indicative that this thing is going to work long term. And even if the second season ratings is okay, if they realize like, hey, creatively, we are a field and we don't know where to take this. Yeah. Then it would be better to cauterize that wound. Even if you end up picking up the characters in some other way, it's just like, let's cut that off. Also, here's the other thing. When you cancel or don't renew a show, there are a lot of contracts with your creatives that are then ended. So, for instance, they won't owe Esta any money after this. They won't have to inherently make her an executive producer on the next thing that includes these characters, et cetera, et cetera. So, like, that's my hope, is that even if they come back to it, they have heard us now, and they're not going to do it like this again. Rivermap says, give the Mayfair budget to Rollin. Yeah, listen. The fact that they have not made Rollin an overall executive producer for the Anne Rice universe, unless he just doesn't want it, I don't know what they're doing over there.
It is a little strange. It's a little strange. Unless they just want to keep his focus on Interview, it is a little strange because he does seem to be the most invested creative that they have.
Yes,
Tadia says, just 100%. Put Rollin in charge of all of Anne's work. I heartily agree. Heartily agree.
Yeah, Alfie says, I also completely forgot about Sip's sister.
I mean, and we liked her. We liked that actress. It seemed kind of weird that she was introduced, but it was great. We were like, okay, well, at least we're going to get to know a little bit more about Sip, this character that's a new character. They're clearly care about making him well-rounded because they're giving him other relationships outside of just Rowan and what he's coming into and what his function is in the show. But no. We just won't ever see her again.
My thing with her was, when they first brought her into, this is a character you've created in addition to the character you've created in Cyprian. That's interesting. These are very big books. There's many characters in them, but we immediately went to Michael's background and we were like, oh, okay, maybe they're going to tie Cyprian into the Black Mayfair side of the family, which is such a big part of the books, eventually gives us Merrick, right? Like, we immediately went into all these places and they just didn't do any of that.
They didn't go to any of the places we thought they might.
You're like, there are crossover books that you seem to be implying that you're heading towards. And you're like, nah, but let's don't put any of those characters in there. I don't know, man. I don't know. Oh, this is a good one. If Dude Bros online complaining about the anti-fascist allegory in Star Wars get mad that a book-accurate Wicked adaptation, then a book-accurate Wicked adaptation would kill them.
100% there. That's hilarious.
Man, okay, so I just read Wicked for the first time recently, and I gotta tell you, it is a great story, and it was a very enjoyable book. I personally think the movie, and we've only seen half of it so far, I'll give you that. I think the musical is actually like a better draft of that story in some ways. It does a lot of the same things as far as like the point of what they're trying to get at, right? but it does it in a more directed fashion, in a way that I think is more mainstream digestible.
Oh,
and I don't mean that people will understand it inherently, but like, if you don't get them to hear the message, then they're never going to get the point, right? And I think the book does it in a way. I mean, even
it's
just
the
the sexuality of the
book. It's the Kids
book.
Bop version.
Yes, a little bit.
It's
honestly,
the Kids Bop version
it's
of the
not
book.
neutered, but it is pre-chewed ever so slightly.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
good point.
Digestible.
Good point. Yes,
digestible. They're baby birding it to us. They've baby birded it to us this way.
I want it. I love Miss Elphaba Throp, intersex bicon and terrorist enemy of the states.
Hell yes.
Yeah, I will say, I think there are going to be a ton of people that see Wicked and then go read the book and are like shaken up about their entire. I mean, I hear people talking about how racy and unbelievable that Fourth Wing series is, or whatever.
Oh yeah, the dragon one.
And then I have anyone explain to me the sex scenes, and I'm like, this is what normies are talking about fanning themselves over? I'm like, have y'all never seen a V.C. Andrews book?
Oh my
God. Have y'all never
God.
read Mayfair Witches, for instance? Like, you never read The Witching Hour?
People our age are so ruined by the shit we read way too young. V.C. Andrews, holy shit.
I mean, I just think about Mona Mayfair, floating in that bubbly tub in the Mayfair mansion, seductively planning her rape, basically, of Michael.
Yeah,
so that she can make an incest baby
at the age of 14.
13, I believe, my friend. I think she's 13 in Lasher. Yeah, anyway, she's a child for sure. Anyway, y'all don't know. Y'all Fourth Wing readers, y'all don't know. Good on you. I'm glad you're enjoying it, but there's more. Tania says, if they're just starting shooting in June, we definitely won't see IWTV until 2026. I don't think that June shoot is the first shoot. First and foremost, we know already they're going back to Prague because they are using Prague for Paris again, and they are going to use the same sets for Magnus's Tower and et cetera, et cetera.
Oh, right? That's right, because we are going to a lot of the places we have been. Indeed.
So I think that we could be, I think possibly there could even be some production going on now. They're not shooting our principals, clearly, because we would have heard about it.
Oh, yeah.
But I think this spring we may get some of that European shoot, right? And then in the summer, they'll move to Toronto when the weather's better there and it's, whatever. So that's my guess, is that we will have a little production before June. I still think we're not going to see the show until 2026. Yeah. It's going to be so difficult to bring everything together. And even then, if they were able to put it together, we want them to have a concerted marketing effort.
Yeah,
right?
And we don't want them to
be a huge deal.
I don't want them to have to rush post-production. I want it to be I want them to tell the story exactly the way that they want to tell it, because we trust them to do that.
I want them to release music videos before the season starts. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they're going to, but I want it. I want it so bad.
We know that he's been doing recording and things like that. We know that. Haven't we? Yes. Don't we know that?
He already did some, but yeah. I don't know how much he's recorded. I don't even know. The last I heard, Daniel hadn't even written it all. But again,
we are impatient. We are impatient.
It's just so plainly there. Like we talked about this with Mayfair. There were so many good things in Mayfair that would have made a great TV series that they skipped. This is an example. The books have given you this multimedia, blitz from Lestat as part of this tour. And why would you not just make some of that reality as part of your marketing plan?
I mean, it'll be so
music videos is the obvious one. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yes. Did I mean David Zaslav? Zaslav is the guy who's over Warner Brothers. Thank you for giving me his name. I said Zuckerberg. I knew it was a Z. I was pretty sure it was a Z. I don't like David. David makes... Listen, if you enjoyed Discovery, I love that for you. I do not like reality TV almost at all. And I think Discovery in particular has been responsible for like the dumbing down
Discovery Channel
of reality. Not Discovery Channel, Discovery as a company. Like Discovery is TLC.
Like,
Discovery is every who's the couple from Mississippi that have a whole town and they do, you know, like they flip houses or whatever.
Yeah, the
Joanna
Gaines, the Gaineses.
The Gaines. There you go.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with them. But I think that is lesser television. I think that is lesser art. And I think that David Zaslav has been responsible for a ballooning of that style of art in media and a shrinking of the rest of it. When I log into Max, the Max app, and I see Oz and The Sopranos and Deadwood, but also freaking My 600-Pound Wedding or whatever.
My 600-pound, yeah. No, that's a valid point. I just think about like earlier times they were so much better. And Discovery itself, I do enjoy because I like Shark Week and animals and I like to watch all that shit. But no, you're totally right. When you get down to it, and the Learning Channel, TLC used to be the Learning Channel. So when they first started, there were all these really
Dr.
great
Pimple Popper.
Yeah, it was like how things are made and like all kinds of cool shit, which my ADHD brain loves
how things
that.
Are made.
Yeah. And I would also like, if there's a topic I want to hyperfixate on, I want to watch every documentary that's ever been made on it. You know, like I want to do deep dives and get real weird with shit. You know, so those like there are so many like little small, much forgotten about documentaries that were on like Discovery and things like that back in the day that are just, you know, one-offs that I'll find every once in a while and be like, ooh.
Kelly Watson says, I don't do WWE, but the Daily Show using heel from Cena for a political example was hysterical. Okay. I will try to put a link to this YouTube video in the show notes because there's a great YouTube clip where it just does this section of the show. Basically, it was so brilliant the way that he used this. And I was trying to explain to Remy how ironic that these two things would happen on the same weekend. It is really crazy. John Cena, by the way, he was coming into wrestling just as I gave it up the first time, really. And he was a heel actually when he first came in. He was like this thugonomics guy or something, and he would come out and like cut you down in bad raps, and he was like a fake Eminem style white rapper guy or whatever, right? He has had the most amazing career, and more than that, I think better than even the guys from my generation. So like my guys are Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock,
right? Stone
Cold didn't have the personality to make mainstream crossover really in a acting way. He's not even as gifted as like a Hulk Hogan in that way. The Rock did, obviously, and in my mind, The Rock should have been bigger than Arnold Schwarzenegger. In my mind, The Rock should already be president because he would have had such a trajectory of stardom that it would have just been unbelievable, right? He's so charismatic. He's so funny. He's so smart.
Yeah.
He's also this physical presence that is just fun to look at. You're just like, good God, how do we build people like you?
He's a charmer too. He's very charming. Like,
yes,
very charming.
But somewhere along the way, I think he got bad advice and got high on his own supply or something. And he decided that he had to be a brand instead of a person.
Yeah.
And he's made choices because of that in the entertainment business that I don't think have been great. Now, he's made choices that have made him very successful. Like he bought into TKO and he's now on their board or whatever. And he's going to be probably a billionaire sooner rather than later because of it. He makes a lot of big movies that make a lot of money. But when you make choices like putting into your contract that you can't lose a fight on film, I feel like you've lost the plot.
Yeah. Yeah. You're too into the character that you created of yourself. Like you've definitely, you've smoked your own supply.
So Cena is the opposite of that. I don't think Cena is as gifted an actor as The Rock is, actually. If you go back and look at like Be Cool, he plays a gay singer or a wannabe singer who's like a bodyguard, I think, in that movie. It's like the sequel to Get Shorty. And he's amazing in it. The Rock is unbelievable in that movie. And he's never had another performance like it since then, unfortunately. Cena, like, think, what was it? It was just a few years ago where he did the thing at the Oscars where he walked across stage naked.
Yeah.
Yes, man.
He does not take himself too seriously.
Never.
He's also the Guinness Book World Record holder of the person who has fulfilled the most Make-A-Wishes of anyone else in the world.
That's the biggest thing to me, is that he's done two things, even as he's reached the heights of stardom. I mean, he's an A-list actor now in Hollywood. They come to him and go, John, what kind of movie do you want to make? And yet still, he is doing this whole thing now where he's taken a year to basically say goodbye to wrestling. And he's doing it the right way. He's making interesting choices on the show for the storyline of the show. Never mind what that might mean for his next, movie box office or whatever. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And also the fact that, yes, he showed up for all those fucking kids when he's not on camera for all of those.
No,
he didn't get paid for a lot of those. None of the other champions showed up like that, a billion times.
None of the other actors, none of the other athletes, none of the other politicians, none of the other anybodies have shown up the way he has in that way.
So John Cena I'll defend that dude to the death. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Also, Peacemaker is awesome. He's badass in the Suicide Squad. He's very good at comedy. He's very good at comedy. He did a movie with Amy Schumer, and LeBron James is in it too.
Yep. That was I can't think of the name of it. I can see the poster.
But he plays Schumer's boyfriend in the beginning, who's like full of himself, and they end up breaking up. But he's so fun. He's as funny in that as Amy Schumer is. Like Trainwreck. Yes, Trainwreck's the name of that one. Absolutely fantastic. Anyway, yes, I love John Cena. I'm down for him. And the fact that he turned heel after 22 years in wrestling this weekend, while America decides to join the Soviet Union in the next World War, was like sort of surprising, y'all. It was a little bit of a moment. It was a little bit of a moment.
Woo, Lord, it's crazy in America right now, kids.
I lost the chat. I got to go scroll down here. Oh, okay. Let's see. Yeah. Jolie says they've already set up Raglan James. We were talking about Tale of the Body Thief. Yes. I do think what's interesting is, will they include Raglan James in any way in the Talamasca series? That's what I really want to know.
I would hope so, but we'll see.
Let's see. I believe Netflix only had rights for season 1 of these AMC shows that expires this summer. Yes, Jordan, I think you're right. My assumption, though, is that the contract probably involves an option for renewal, right? And expansion. And so the question is, was it successful for Netflix, and will they sign up for another go round?
Yep.
As someone who doesn't get access to AMC, please watch it, folks, for you and us foreigners' sake.
We will. Yeah. We're taking all the ones for the team, Alfie. I will watch all the shitty television so that you can watch it as well.
Okay, Sanctuary is a much better witch show than that is also on AMC. Have you watched Sanctuary?
I haven't yet.
Me neither. But it does. Sanctuary is not the one that's about the witches that saved America, is it? There's some show that I saw recently that seems like
something of witches.
Is that what that one is? A gathering of witches or something like that? Yeah, I think that's true. Elle says, I'm sorry I'm late, but did y'all discuss how Cyprian's sister just disappeared?
Yes,
Felt like an unplanned story device that they just dropped. We did just a little bit touch on it. Honestly, Ashley and I were both sort of shocked that we never brought it up all season long. Like literally every episode I had a note, hey, mention Cyprian's sister, and the show would just go so off the rails we never got around to it.
Yeah.
But it does feel like they had plans for something and then just never went to it at all.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I think that they had plans at they had plans that through season 1 that changed somehow in the like lead up to starting season 2. Like somebody must have been like, we've got to try something different or something along those lines, because they did dramatically shift gears and just left a bunch of loose ends just out floating in the wind.
So speaking of loose ends, here's one sort of that we got on Interview with the Vampire. Adrian says, navigating the interconnected stories, what do we think of the Talamasca publishing Daniel's book, An Interview with the Vampire, but wanting to suppress the book in Mayfair Witches? So I think the Talamasca wanted to publish the book so that they could control the narrative.
Yeah.
Right? I think that was in fact the point. They felt like, first of all, I think Raglan James says it. There's a group within the Talamasca that felt like it's better for the truth of vampirism to come out in some form than for the vampires to control the narrative or decide when they release it, et cetera, et cetera. But I think this is one of the reasons. If we're the publisher, then we can determine that it is filed as a fictional book, for instance. Yes. I don't think necessarily that is a plot hole. It could be, though. We'll see how they refer to it in the Talamasca series that's coming.
Yes.
You know, one in spring, one in fall, year-round shows. That's the goal. I know we've had the writer's strike and we had COVID that kept us from getting there so far, but you think about what they did with Walking Dead, where in the very beginning you'd have the first half of the season and then a break and then the second half of the season. And so they were getting you in the fall and the spring. And then eventually they're like, okay, now we run Walking Dead and now we run Fear the Walking Dead. And now we run Dead City and now we run Those Who Are Left Behind or whatever. I don't know. There's a million of those shows now.
Yeah.
There's no reason why the Anne Rice stuff can't get to that point. Mayfair Witches ain't the ticket though. So let's don't do more of that. Maybe Cyprian's sister got put in the Talamasca prison, or she liked The Office so much she decided to stay there. Yeah, so we did see that prison.
If you drop me in that Amsterdam mother house with those libraries and lovely wooden walls and comfy chairs and fireplaces, hell, I might stay there too.
I'm good. I'm all good. Tania says, oh yeah, this is about Mona. Mona was 13. In the beginning of last year. Yeah, she was absolutely 13.
Look, we talk about a lot of unproducible elements in these books.
I just remind myself, I was also 13 when I was reading.
You were 13. You were not the creep. You were not the creep, Joel. You were 13.
Kirsten Dunst, Mona Mayfair, Joel Sharpton, all the same age.
Safe.
It's fine. Very safe. Very safe. Those crushes I had. You could use Montreal for old French Lestat. Yeah, absolutely. Though that Canada filming could absolutely be used for some of the French countryside and stuff like that. I do wonder, like, if we get to the Prince Lestat books down the road, we need to see that chateau eventually, right? Mm-hmm. You know, he rebuilds his ancestral home in the final trilogy. And I hope we get there. I hope we get there. Let's see. Do we know if they have a panel at SDCC?
I have not heard yet.
I haven't heard it yet. I can't imagine that they won't. It was so successful last year for them.
Yeah.
Coming off of season 2. I know they won't have a season to answer questions about like that. What they will have, though, is a season to tease.
Yeah. What
they will have, hopefully, is another music video or a couple of promos or something, you know? So that's my hope, is that they do go and yes, they turn Lestat into a TikTok star. That's what I'm like, y'all, this is not hard.
No,
this is not tough choices.
And
a little bit of money.
All it gives us is more content. Thank you. More content of our sweet, 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 sexy Sam. I'm happy.
Alfie says, I'd be fine if they gave us 1 or 2 songs. We absolutely need, though. And I mean, I guess we sort of have this already with Long Fangs, but like, we need to be singing the songs when they show up in the episode.
I would love that. That's revealing our inner musical theater kids, Joel. We're like, let it feel like a karaoke for me. I want to do a sing along.
Tania said Ben and Aaron Napier, my faves. Are those? I'm assuming those are maybe Discovery folks. I don't know those names. Let's see. Give Lestat his own social media to promote the season and music concerts, backstage mayhem. So, okay. I had missed it in the initial discussion of season 3, but it does seem like when you go back and look at their promotional language that season 3, at least in part, will be almost like a reality show version of the tour. It seems like it might be Daniel filming, a Led Zeppelin style concert movie about this tour or whatever, which would be pretty badass. And if they do that, then again, they're going to be capturing some of that, what would be social media content anyway, just for the show. So I think very, very cool stuff there. Yeah, Queen of the Damned, the movie, had a great soundtrack. Jolie says, I don't exactly agree with you all on Queen of the Damned. I don't even really like the music that much, but I do understand that most people do. It's not your jam. Yes, and that's the thing. They've already said all of the influences that they're bringing, the Chapel Roan and the Rocky Horror and the Hedwig and the Angry Inch and the et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like, yeah, Bowie. I mean, just look at Wicked. Just look at Wicked, right? Like the soundtrack made a bunch of money too, right? People want to hear that music and sing that music and play it over and over again and again and again. Discovery of Witches, Kelly says.
Discovery of Witches. Thank you, Kelly. Yes, God bless.
That's the one. George Washington's Witches or whatever. Oh, no, that's a different one. Motherland, Fort Salem is what I'm thinking about.
Which is the one where they save the world?
Yes.
Okay.
I saw the trailer for that once and I was like, okay, I could kind of get behind that. I read a book a book series when I was a kid. I think the first one was even called like Guns of the South or something. And it was an alternate history book where suddenly the Confederacy develops machine guns. And because of that, they win the war, right? But what you find out in the book series, spoiler for a book series that I'm not even remembering the name of properly, it's 30 years old, you find out it's neo-Nazis that made a time machine and they went back to give the Confederacy machine guns. They didn't invent machine guns. They got them delivered from neo-Nazis in the future. So
God.
But
that tracks.
I dig that, like as a not in reality. No. I do not dig this in reality. I would dig that in my fiction though. I'm like, yeah, man, tell me a story. Like I was a big fan of Man in the High Castle, which is a similar sort of like alternate history thing. I'm down for that. Motherland, Fort Salem. Anybody watch that? Is it good? They say no. Let's see. Discovery of Witches is just a show where witches are normal people in society. One family ends up being screwed and persecuted.
Oh.
Okay, that's interesting. See, there's too many witch shows on here.
Man, I can't keep them all straight.
Brand says I was 14 reading the Sleeping Beauty book.
Yeah, I mean, unrestricted access, my friends. That's a hell of a time for all of us.
Jackie Collins and Anne Rice at 12. I've been jaded my whole life.
Oh, yes. Yes. I'm telling you, the 80s were a hell of a time to grow up. No one gave a shit what we were doing. 80s and 90s. No one cared.
Brand says, I have no doubt season 3 is going to be super meta.
Yeah.
And Tania says, yes, like Madonna's Truth or Dare. Oh, that's such a good reference.
I rewatched that recently. That is still a wild ass ride.
Okay. Kelly says, I've been trying to start the newsreader lately, but I'm struggling to watch Sam in such a different role. I don't know how to cleanse my palate from Lestat. I feel you. So the newsreader is on my list of to-dos. I wanted to finish my What You Missed in season 2 of Interview with the Vampire, which, by the way, I haven't recorded them yet, but I have written the last 2 episodes of that. I'm going to get those recorded this week, and they'll start going out for patrons. So look this week for patrons and next week on YouTube for those next videos. But when I get done with that, my thought was that I would watch the newsreader and try to do a similar thing. Do like here's 3 things I noticed in episode 1 of the newsreader or something like that. First of all, I love Australian accents. And I think I would enjoy learning a little bit more about Australian politics and the news media, which I'm assuming this show does, because it's like a period piece about a specific time in Australian history, I think. And then second of all, yes, I want to see if I am in fact as big a Sam Reed fan as I think I am, or is it just that I'm so in love with Lestat? I think I love Sam Reed, but we'll have to wait and see.
Do you love Sam Reed or do you love Sam Reed as Lestat?
I mean, I definitely love Sam Reed as Lestat.
We know that for sure.
That man would not be safe in a room with me. I genuinely think probably. No,
I would really have to behave. Myself. We'd have to behave. He's scrumptious.
Okay, so yes, apparently Sanctuary is the one that we were thinking of, not Discovery of Witches.
Weird that we mucked all that up.
There's so many of them. Adrian says the Motherland Fort Salem is pretty fun. So thank you, Adrian, for that. It feels like a premise that I would be into. River Matt said Sam is great in the newsreader, and I'm sure that he is. He, like I said, he was really good. And that Hatfields and McCoys thing was from years ago. That was probably 10 years ago at this point. So he's much, much younger, but still, he's a very talented actor. He absolutely is. And I do think...
Not hard on the eyes.
Oh, boy, that's the truth too. I do think there is a certain magic because he is also in love with these stories and with the character of Lestat specifically. But at the same time, though, I think the fact that he can so accurately embody this imaginary person that we've all been in love with for the last 30 years is, I mean, he can't help but be from his talent as an actor.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Whether it takes us a little while to wash out the Lestat from our mouth or not, yeah. I think we'll
it's
we'll
because we don't really want to wash that out of our mouths. We're like,
Alfie says Sam was like 25 when they shot Hatfields and McCoys. He's such a baby face, though. Like, I mean, I know he's in his 30s now. He's honestly like borderline too old to play Lestat.
Right.
If you had asked me ahead of time. But he's perfect, honestly. And the aging Lestat up ever so slightly in this story, I don't think has hurt at all. The character he plays in Hatfields and McCoys, I think, is probably supposed to be late teens, and he carries it off just fine at 25. So it's interesting. Y'all, I just realized we've been on for an hour and a half, so we will at least begin to angle towards wrapping this up a little bit. Kelly says... Kelly says, "Don't wash Sam Lestat out." So I'm trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Don't wash him out. It's fine. Let's enjoy him. Let's rinse him around in there.
Yes, just
savor it. You don't have to spit that one in the wine bucket.
No. Num num num.
Okay. Does anybody have any specific questions that we have not covered or discussed yet? Ashley, I brought up some TV shows earlier while we're waiting on some more questions. Is there anything that we didn't mention that you have been watching or want to watch?
Let's see. Well, we've talked a lot about the things I have on my to watch list. And now that Mayfair's done, I have a little bit more time to like watch other things, which is great. My neurodiversity, spiciness, forces me to rewatch things a lot, because that's just the way it works. I am a huge... There's the next season of Taskmaster is about to start. If you're not watching Taskmaster, I don't know how to tell you that you're missing one of the greatest delights that you could experience in life. It is the most fun. It is the most delightful show. It's a British game show, basically. It's all comedians, and they bring comedians on there, and they give them like little, they give them tasks to do, like creative problem-solving things. And it is brilliant. And Greg Davis is the host, the Taskmaster, and it's also with Alex Horn as his co-host, the Taskmaster's assistant. And they are so brilliant and hilarious together. I have found so many British comedians that I did not have on my radar at all yet watching this show that now I just love and love all their stand up. So yeah, Taskmaster, in these times, in these dark times we live in, Taskmaster is a bright light. And there are also versions of it that come out of other countries. There's a really fun version that's New Zealand Taskmaster that a lot of people really enjoy, and it is just, I can't recommend it enough. It's on in the background. If there's nothing else on, I have Taskmaster on. It is.
Alfie
it's so
says
silly.
Taskmaster is the silliest show. Okay, so we've talked about Taskmaster before. Have you ever watched Dropout, the comedy streaming service that Sam Reich, I think, is the
I don't think
creator
so.
of? I know I'm doing this wrong. I follow several of their shows on TikTok, and I watch them mostly as TikTok clips or YouTube clips, not the actual show. I don't pay for their streaming service, but they have a game show style format with 3 comedians, and they pop up something on the board, and then the comedians buzz in and do it. Right. Mm-hmm. And then you get points based on who did it the best, kind of thing. It's a whose line is it anyway style, sort of, but a little bit more formulaic, a little bit more formed into a game show. I love that idea. I love the idea of like, hey, we've got these funny people, like, let's just set them loose.
Yeah.
And I honestly like it in almost any format. Like the BBC has a show called, the podcast version is called No Such Thing as a Fish, but that's not the name of the TV show. What's the name of the TV show? QI. Quite interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So QI is the same sort of thing. It's like you've got a host and they have a topic that they're talking about. Like Stephen Fry hosted it for a long time. But then you've got 4 or 5, and they're not always comedians. Sometimes they're just actors or whatever. But it's like people who can think on their feet and have some funny things to say. And let's just let them unload. Let's let them do a thing.
Yeah. There's so many really great British panel shows. They're just
bring me joy.
I mean, I love Lie to Me. Is it Lie to Me? That's so funny too.
Yes.
A lot of the same people you'll see on Taskmaster on those other panel shows as well. But it's a damn delight. Like, I can't even express how hard I've laughed sometimes at that. And I love that it's introduced me to brilliant comedians who were not on my radar because I just don't listen to as much British comedy as I do American. And yeah, it's fucking great. I love it so hard.
Slightly different note. Have you watched Daredevil, the new Daredevil Born Again on Disney Plus?
I haven't watched. Are the new episodes out?
2 episodes out so far.
Ooh, I have not. This week. I have not started yet. Ooh, yeah. I'm excited. I'm excited.
It's really good. Picks up exactly where the Netflix series left off, and it's a true continuation of that Netflix series.
Excellent.
Brings back a lot of the creatives. Seems like they're going to bring back even more of those actors and characters from that series, so that's exciting. And they did not skimp or turn down the violence. Good. Or the language.
Good.
There's F-bombs in this first episode or the second episode, and there is some like truly brutal fight scenes. So
excellent.
I will say, and Derek O'Neill, one of our listeners who hosts the TV podcast industry show, they're doing episodes about Daredevil Born Again, by the way. But he mentioned in a post in our Facebook group, be careful online with people speculating about the Daredevil show because there are screeners out for like the first 7 episodes. So there are people that are talking about things that they have seen happen.
And they should not be talking about them yet. Yeah.
As if they had speculated about it. Mm-hmm. So like, just be careful out there. There's some spoilers to be had. But that's really good. And just on that same note, we mentioned some Amazon Prime stuff earlier. If you haven't watched Invincible, that's like 4 seasons in now. It's an animated show. Mm-hmm. Really, really cool comic book adaptation. The comic book by Robert Kirkman, who did the Walking Dead series. The comic book is great too. But the TV show has been very well adapted. Seth Rogen, I think, is the executive producer on that. Him and one of his writing partners. And it's really, really good. Jolie says that's her 16-year-old's favorite show. So... okay, I'm not going to give you spoilers, but I'm just telling you the first season of that show does a Game of Thrones level. I didn't know you could do this in television, right?
Ooh.
Like it's that sort of
excellent.
Yes, very, very much. And they continue to live up to that, honestly, as the show goes on. So
it's been on my radar, but I haven't dived into that yet.
Well, that one's a weird one for me too, because the episodes are incredibly random lengths. Like one episode will be 28 minutes long, but then the next one will be 52 minutes long. And the other thing that they do, which is very strange, it's incredibly common in that show to get to the end of the episode. They run like the title card, and then there'll be another 15 or 20 minute story. Like it's not a post credit. There'll be a whole nother story. They do that several times, if not almost every episode. It's very strange. Anyway, really, really good show. If you liked Preacher back in the day on AMC.
I loved Preacher. That was super fun.
Yeah, you should absolutely check out Invincible. I think you'd very, very much like it. And then another, and I mentioned this previously on the show too, but just to stick with superheroes for a minute, if you haven't watched that new Disney Plus Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man is the name of it. Really, really good show. I'm watching that right now with my kids, and it is fantastic. They're eating it up with a spoon too. Jolie's headed into work. Thank you guys. Thank you for hanging out and sitting in with this. I had a good time. We had a great time. We really appreciate you guys, and we'll try to do this again sometime in the future. Definitely at least once more before Talamasca comes on. So. Thanks everybody for doing it, and tell your friends that it was fun. We'll do it again sometime soon. I think we can wrap it up on that point, honestly. Thanks, Bran. Thanks, River Map. Thanks, Kelly. Thanks everybody for hanging out with us. We will be back next week with more episodes. Let's talk about the schedule real quick.
Yeah.
Alfie says, thanks for the stream. It was a lot of fun. Have a great day, everybody.
Yay!
So next week, we'll be back with Merrick Book Club Part 1. We're going to do chapter 1 through 6.
Is that next week?
That's next week. Merrick Book Club first, and then we'll do movie night. Dracula's Daughter is our first movie night on the 23rd. These dates are for patrons, by the way. So we'll be on the 16th. We'll release an episode about Merrick. On the 23rd, we'll release Dracula's Daughter, and then on the 30th, we'll do Merrick Book Club Part 2, Chapter 7 through 12. All of these are in the show notes, by the way. Then we'll do movie night for The Witch from 2015. Then we'll do another book club episode. We'll do Poor Things with, what's her name?
Emma Stone.
Emma Stone, yes. I'm super excited to watch that one.
You'll love it. It's wild.
And then we're going to wrap up our book club for Merrick, and then we'll do a Nosferatu night where we'll talk about the original 1922 film and the 2024 film, which I had not thought about the fact that those movies are 100 years apart, by the way.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
The other day when I was writing those down. So yeah, that is pretty cool. So lots of fun stuff to talk about. We should, I feel like, get some dates for Talamasca sooner rather than later.
I would think.
Just because they're going to want to be able to lay out their marketing schedule, I would think. And so I feel like we'll get an announcement for that pretty soon. Talamasca's done. We know that already. So it's just a matter of when it's going to air. Even though Mayfair Witches put a little damper on us, folks, I'm still very hopeful and positive about this overall experiment.
Yeah. And we're still gonna, like, we've got so much goodness to look forward to this next season. I'm so excited for Interview. It's going to be so fantastic. And I actually do have a lot of hope for the Talamasca series. I have a lot of hope for it. I've got my fingers crossed very hard.
There's some really great actors in there, y'all. Putting William Fichtner at the middle of it is a great choice. Like and again, I don't, this is catty. Kelly tells me sometimes radical honesty, and then we get to say something that we would not say in public.
You're like,
right?
This is going to be a little mean, but it's coming out of my mouth.
Here's some radical honesty that I don't mind saying in public. I trust William Fichtner and his agent better to pick better quality stuff than I do Harry Hamlin and Alexandria Daddario. So there you go.
Heard. I like that. I can support that.
Thanks again for everybody hanging out with us. Genuinely, this was a lot of fun, and we will be back soon. Until we talk to you the next time, we've been your hosts. I'm Joel.
I'm Ashley.
And we are the Articulate Coven. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Thanks for listening to The Articulate Coven. If you enjoyed the show, check out our groups on Facebook and Discord. Subscribe to the channel on YouTube. Or find us at articulatecoven.com and wherever you listen to podcasts.